Hi, I'm Delusion Dispeller, and today I'm going to talk to you about the differences between bipolar disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. A lot of people think there's some similarities between the two of them, and I'm going to kind of explain to you what each is about so that you can decide for yourself just how similar or different they are. So, here we go. First of all, both narcissism and bipolar have a sort of mania portion to what they are, who they are, to what they are, and in the people to who they are and how they act. Bipolar mania, however, is limited in time, so it's not an all-pervasive thing where the person is always manic. In bipolar, it's a brain chemical thing. This person literally feels like they're going crazy, like they're losing their mind. They can't sometimes function physically with what they're doing. They have trouble with paying attention. A lot of times they're hospitalized. They have what's called rapid cycling, rapid thought patterns. They tend to not be accepted by people outside of them, society, etc., because they act so strangely and so impulsively. They talk very quickly. Sometimes they tell very strange jokes that don't make a lot of sense. They talk a long time and a lot. Usually, people that know them, if they're in manic mode, they say that they're acting like a different person. It's almost like they're dissociated. They can sometimes be narcissistic also, or antisocial is the new DSM term coming up soon. They're very aggressive toward themselves. They are often self-harmers. They cut, they burn themselves. A lot of eating disorders associated along with bipolar disorder. When they are in manic mode, they have a heightened, increased sense of smell, sight, taste, almost like they're on a drug, kind of that euphoric feeling. They blame themselves for their problems, like for when they cause problems, when they steal, when they spend too much money, when they gamble. They will turn that inward towards themselves rather than blaming somebody else. Their behaviors are very sporadic. You can't predict them, you can't chart them. It's on again, off again type of thing, like a light switch almost. They're very hyperactive. This is during mania. They can be very self-focused. They do have trouble with empathy and feeling how other people feel, just like the narcissist does. They can be very domineering. They do have grandiose fantasies sometimes. They often will have a rage situation after a deep depression. And during this time, they will self-deprecate, which means they'll put themselves down. They'll be very depressed. They won't find any joy in life. They won't. See, the thing is, the difference between the narcissist and the bipolar is that the grandiosity level is shorter lived. When the bipolar person is in that manic phase, they may be having tons of lofty thoughts, and I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to go run the triathlon, and I'm going to win the best prize or whatever. But when they hit that depression mode, the grandiosity disappears. They're no longer talking like they're the best at everything and they're going to achieve this and that, whatever. Unlike the narcissist, who the grandiosity never ends. So let's talk about the narcissist now. Unlike the bipolar person who has the brain chemical difficulty, the narcissist is in full possession of his thoughts at all times. He is able to think, he's able to plot and plan, and as anybody knows that has had dealings with them, they indeed do that. The narcissist never has that sense of being able to understand how other people feel. He just doesn't have it. Whereas the bipolar person in the depressive phase can say, oh, I hurt your feelings, or I feel bad, or whatever, but they still self-punish themselves because of that. The narcissist never cares how you feel. They can't relate to how somebody else feels or what they think or how that hurt you. The narcissist does go through a state of depression, but he's still grandiose even after he comes out of the depression and goes into his normal mode. It never ends, in other words. The grandiosity is always there. He always thinks he's the best at everything and deserves the best of everything. It just never goes away. His depressive times, yes, he has depression, but it's not very long. I remember in my case, the narcissist would go into these deep depressions, and she would even tell me, there's nothing you can do when I get in this mode. Nobody can cheer me up. So don't even try. She said, you can try if you want, but it's not going to work. I'm just letting you know now. I'll come out when I come out of it. And she was right. I did everything I could to try to pull her out of it, and there was no pulling her out of it. She stayed depressed. And you just get to the point where you're like, well, if you choose to be depressed, you own that. It's not my problem, you know. You feel bad for them, but you can't make somebody be happy. Okay, the other thing about their depressive state is it's a reaction. Everything about narcissism is a reaction. Bipolars, yes, they can be triggered, but usually the bipolar is feeling things inside of themselves that are making them act the way they do. The narcissist, on the other hand, he is, as I said in my other video on cyber stalkers or cyber predators, he has been watching you, or she has been watching you and learning everything that makes you tick. What you like to eat, what your favorite color is, what your hobby is, what you don't like, what bothers you, what scares you. She or he has studied that, and they literally have like a file cabinet in their mind. So they know when to pull those things out to manipulate or control you or punish you. So, what I'm getting at here is that those things, the things that he knows cause you to be upset or fearful or whatever, that's what causes him to react the way he does, or she. Addiction behaviors, they happen whether the narcissist is in manic phase, depressive phase, manipulative phase, control phase, whatever. They're just plain addictive personalities. There is not a whole lot of hospitalization of narcissists or medical care. You got to remember that narcissists feel like it's not their problem, everybody else is to blame. So if they have any type of mental breakdown or whatever, it would have to be pretty extreme for them to even seek help, because they can blame everybody else for their issues. Generally, the narcissists are seen as the ones that are in charge, pillars of the community, people to look up to, people that are great leaders, and they're in those positions. They're teachers, they're lawyers, they're bankers, they're, I don't know, whatever high position, the highest position in the company is usually held, or often held, by a narcissist. They do have mood changes, but they're not as quick as the bipolars. They have rapid speech, but they don't talk a long time. In fact, the narcissist that I knew said very little, especially the female one. When I was typing online, I would type and type and type and type, and she would just jump on something. As long as it had something to do with her, if I was questioning her, if I didn't understand something she said, if I assumed something about her, all of a sudden, after I wrote all this stuff, I would see, what do you mean by that? What are you talking about? Can you clarify that for me? They hate the thought that you see them as anything less than what they're portraying themselves to be. So, bam, they jump on it right away. Let's see. In society, among people, as I said, they're not only accepted, but they're looked up to. And they also don't get that euphoria that the bipolar person goes through. They don't have that drugged type of mindset, ever. They're always in full possession of their faculties mentally. They have no remorse when they hurt somebody. They don't feel sorry for you. They don't hurt with you. They may act like they do, but they really don't feel it. They're just imitating other behaviors. They look at somebody and say, oh, well, when they're sorry for something, they say they're sorry, so I need to say I'm sorry. The only reason they do this is because they want to keep you connected to them, so they get their supply source, which is your admiration. They blame other people, as I already said. They don't feel sorry. They're more predictable than the bipolar is. Their behaviors aren't so sporadic and erratic and crazy. You pretty much can tell what they're going to do next. almost like a robot that's been programmed. If you've been with them long enough, you can predict what they're going to do. Let's see. They have a true self and a false self. Their true self does feel feelings, but the false self diffuses those feelings so that, and distorts them, so that the narcissist really doesn't feel them as what they are. So he might see something that's funny as something to be afraid of. His mind twists everything. His false self twists things, and it recreates it as something else. So say there is something where he's hurt somebody. There's a situation where he's hurt somebody. Well, instead of him feeling bad about that, he might find it funny. He might find it something to be angry about. His feelings don't line up with what's going on. I don't know how much clearer to make that really, but his feelings are all twisted up. They don't make sense. They don't line up with what he's saying or what he's doing. It's very confusing to the person that's in the relationship. For instance, when I had met the narcissist in my life at the airport, and she was crying because she was going on a trip, and it was my first time meeting her, I just held her while she cried. And later on, she accused me by saying, your feelings didn't line up with what you said. You said that you loved me. You said that you couldn't wait to see me. But yet, when I was crying, you didn't cry with me. I said, well, I was trying to be strong because I knew you were falling apart, so I wanted to be strong for you. And she said, well, I don't know. I think you have mental issues. I think you need to go and get some help. Okay. I learned later that that was a projection because she had a very, very close, very young friend guy. And she didn't even mourn the loss of that friend. And she told me that if I wanted to hug her and comfort her, that was fine, but it wouldn't work. Because she didn't mourn like that. I won't go into more detail on that because it's pretty racy for my video. But she had other ways of coping, let's say, that I did not figure into, and I'm glad. But the point was, I could not just hug her and comfort her because at the time, she didn't feel it as something to mourn over. She felt the loss, I think, but her mind didn't process it over a deep loss, like mine would. Like when somebody dies in my life, I really feel it deep inside. She didn't. She just kind of, I don't know, she kind of went into a depressive mode, actually. She put on black. She went to the wake and everything of the person, but she didn't show any visible sign of sadness. And in fact, this happened 3 times where 3 people died in the same year, and she really never mourned any of them openly. Now, I can't say she didn't mourn in private. I'm not going to judge the person on that, but I know that her feelings did not line up with what should have been there at the time. And with narcissists, they don't. So, anyways, those are some differences between bipolar disorder and narcissism. I hope that helps you to recognize both. Either way, it's rough dealing with somebody, whether it is a personality disorder or a mental or chemical disorder. But maybe that sheds some light. God bless you, and stay tuned for the next series. Bye for now.